Hi, I'm Alicia, author of the Mindshift Musings Substack, where I encourage personal balance and freedom through a lens of nuanced perspective. Today I'd like to address the question, what are we feeding with our energy? One of my favorite things to talk about are egregores. Most of us have never heard of them. Heck, I hadn't either until about 4 years ago. So what's an egregore? An egregore is a thought form or belief entity co-created by groups of people, often unconsciously. It refers to a collective consciousness that arises from the shared thoughts, emotions, and beliefs of a group. It's like a symbolic fire fed by shared energy. The more people fuel it, the more it grows, eventually transforming into something that begins to influence the thoughts and actions of those who created it. It's like a psychic feedback loop. The more attention and energy egregores receive, the more powerful and autonomous they become. Without belief and attention, they dissolve. Negative egregores are everywhere. There are neutral and positive ones, but our screens and social algorithms seem wired to amplify the negative, setting our nervous systems afire with constant uncertainty. Because attention is energy, and energy is what egregores feed on, when we become intentional about what we energize, we stop unconsciously feeding fear loops and begin co-creating fields of healing and expansion. I'd like to see more of us consciously step up to challenge this trend by understanding what egregores are while choosing not to hand feed these distorted thought forms. So what creates an egregore? Egregores grow when we pour passion into something we identify with. The more passion and identity we invest, the more energy they receive. Egregores can range from the positive, like collective love or hope, to the negative, such as mob mentalities or institutions that have drifted from their ethical roots. What kinds of egregores are there? Egregores come in all varieties, shapes, and sizes. They can bring positive or negative energy to the world. Their existence relies on our individual choices to feed the ones we support while starving the ones we don't want to encourage. We do this by managing our emotional urge to participate in them. But this requires conscious attention for awareness as to what we're manifesting in the world. There are all manner of egregores showing up in places we wouldn't necessarily expect. They weave into our daily lives, quietly shaping us through culture, emotion, and repetition. So let's explore a few. One of the most deeply rooted and socially accepted egregores is the one that drives consumerism. It's the often unconscious urge to buy, accumulate, and define our worth through what we own. This energy doesn't just shape personal choices, it influences entire economies and subtly tells us who we should be in order to be enough. Even in spiritual spaces, egregores can form. The collective energy around things like manifestation, unity consciousness, and ascension can be inspiring, but it can also drift into spiritual bypassing or wishful thinking. When this happens, it begins to sustain itself in a loop, feeding off people's longing for meaning without always grounding it in discernment. Then there are the passionate, emotionally charged collectives built around sports, movies, and celebrities. These fandoms can feel like families, but they also create powerful energetic fields. Devotion becomes a currency. Identity gets wrapped around what or who we follow, and stepping outside the group norms can feel like heresy. In healing spaces, egregores form subtly. Biohacking, breathwork, and diets may start out as tools, but can morph into identities, feeding on rigid labels and overused buzzwords that have lost their original meaning. Fear-based egregores thrive in digital spaces. Doom scrolling, outrage loops, and reactive posting help these energies spiral. They don't just pass through us, they gather and feed back into us, leaving us feeling depleted and anxious. But it's not all shadow. There are egregores that uplift, heal, and hold. These are born when people come together around peace, compassion, and conscious service. Whether it's mindfulness practice, nonviolent movements, or community generosity, these energetic collectives help reinforce our better nature. They remind us what's possible when our focus aligns with our values. What births, builds, and feeds egregores? Egregores thrive on attention, emotion, and participation. Whether consciously or unconsciously, individuals call them up by speaking about them, reacting emotionally to them, energetically aligning with them, even in opposition, or acting in accordance with their narrative. For example, a fearful populace constantly talking about collapse may energize a dystopian egregore. A global wave of people meditating for peace helps energize an egregore of collective calm and coherence. Social media outrage loops act like feeding grounds for polarized, divisive egregores. Communities rallying around acts of kindness contribute to an egregore of generosity and shared humanity. In energetic terms, every thought, word, and action is a vote of power. When many people feed the same energetic pattern, it builds momentum and begins to shape reality on subtle and overt levels. As these collective energies gain traction, they can grow beyond their origins, detaching from any single person or group while taking on a life of their own. At that point, they no longer merely reflect the contributors, they begin to direct them. What once was an idea becomes an individual architect of behavior, culture, and perception that nudges people towards choices they may not even realize are being influenced. The egregore becomes self-perpetuating and magnetizing, drawing in more energy, belief, and action to maintain its existence. Familiarity plays a key role. The more we encounter a positive or negative thought, emotion, or behavior, whether in our feed, our community, or internal dialogue, the more normal it feels. Repetition leads to comfort, which leads to acceptance, and eventually leads to the thought that's just how things are. We begin to confuse the echo of the egregores with our own inner voice. This is how collective conditioning slips beneath our conscious awareness. It wraps itself in our language, aesthetics, and rhythms of familiarity until questioning it starts to feel uncomfortable or even disloyal. We don't just follow the pattern, we get hijacked, and we become it. In the digital age, memes and virality are just like jet fuel for egregores. Memes aren't just jokes or images. They're compact, symbolic belief systems that spread like energetic spores across the collective psyche. Each like or share acts like a modern ritual which feeds the egregore behind the message. The more we see them, the more they shape what feels true, not just reflecting our thoughts, but rewiring them. Memes reinforce group identity and can help egregores spread far beyond their origins. What starts as a simple phrase can evolve into a collective force that directs perception and behavior, fueled by repetition and emotion. Sharing memes isn't passive, it's participation. It's an energetic offering. Memes have become the sigils of the digital age, summoning, feeding, and evolving egregores. Virality is the ritual that activates them. Whether it's cancel culture, hustle culture, beauty standards, or mass hope, they're all shaped and sustained by meme-driven attention loops. Memes don't just reflect culture anymore. They create it. These energetic currents we swim in, seen and unseen, are not neutral. They respond to us. They mirror us. They feed off of us. And in return, they shape the fabric of what we call reality. Every scroll, every word, every breath we give to fear or hope is an offering on an altar we may not even realize we're kneeling before. But we're not powerless. We're powerful creators. We are alchemists. With every conscious choice, we either breathe life into monsters or into movements of love, grace, clarity, and wholeness. So let the alchemy begin. The invitation now is to remember this, to step out of the trance, to notice what we're energetically feeding and who we're becoming in the process. The future isn't just arriving, it's responding. So watch where you point that thing. Thank you for taking the time to listen. If there's personal resonance with this piece, I invite you to join me for more musings at Mindshift Musings. Keep radiating, my friend. Copyright Mindshift Musings 2025. Used with permission.